Teenagers beating the crap out of each other. Sometimes you're tired and you don't want to think, you just want an adrenaline boost, something to get you excited, and that is where dudes banging on the street comes in. Forget story or setting or any type of complex storytelling, this is just dudes fighting on the street, and it's so simple and yet so effective at what it does. I came into Windbreaker with exactly zero expectations, and that's what makes these seasonal anime so beautiful to me, because it's always a coin flip. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's both. Windbreaker is the quintessential shonen anime. It follows every tired trope in the book, and yet it does so unapologetically that it loops around the cringe meter and it becomes cool. Let's start with the basics. Windbreaker setting makes no sense. They are in school and yet they learn nothing. And well, okay, I know that is most people's schooling experience, but what I actually mean is there are no teachers, there are no classes. It's not even obvious to me why these people are all gathering in school to begin with. It's like school is just a building where these pumped up teenagers full of hormones gather and just bang it out. This world masquerades as similar to real life Japan, and yet nothing about it follows any conventional logic. We have teenagers brawling on the streets, and yet there's no police involved, there's no obvious repercussions, and peace is maintained through gang warfare while adults cheer them on. It's just so stupid, it's hilarious. I have so many questions regarding this world, and yet I do not ask them, because you do not poke holes in this anime. This anime already has more holes than Swiss cheese. You simply strap in, turn your brain off, and enjoy dudes beating meat. So yes, the premise is incredibly dumb and cliched, and yet it is very entertaining and almost refreshing, because it's an anime that knows what it's going for. People are sometimes surprised that I will give high ratings to anime which are simpler in premise, and me personally, I like watching a variety of things, and I like evaluating an anime based on what the author was going for and what the series proposes to be. Yes, if I'm doing, for example, a tier ranking, I doubt that I would ever give an S tier to a generic battle shonen, because that's just my taste. I don't think those anime have such high ceiling. However, they can be pretty entertaining. Not every anime needs to be an absolute masterpiece. Sometimes I just want to watch some dudes bang. So why does Windbreaker succeed where so many generic shonen fail? And let's start with the obvious, the animation is pretty good. A lot of anime that are focused on storytelling and dialogue can get away with very low budget animation because the viewers are there for the dialogue, and so they don't care as much about the eye candy. If it's there, good; if it's not, it's whatever, as long as the story is interesting. The exact opposite is true for action-focused series. I would even dare say that for action-focused series, the most important thing is the animation and the quality of the fights. The majority of the audience is there for the meat slapping, and if the meat slapping isn't visually appealing, most of the audience doesn't really care about the rest. There are plenty of anime, which I'm sure you know many of them, that can get away with a weaker storyline and cardboard cutouts as characters because the fights and animation are good. A common criticism of Demon Slayer, for example, is that its story and characters are pretty bland, which, you know, I think that a series that has such gorgeous animation deserves to be celebrated always, since it's a sort of visual medium, so that has its own merit. And while I recognize that the story is a bit whatever, I do think that Tanjiro, for example, is one of the best shonen protagonists of the last few years, but you people aren't ready for that conversation, so that's for another day. Back to Windbreaker. Even though Windbreaker's fight scenes aren't an over-the-top spectacle like Demon Slayer or filled with magic spells like Frieren, for example, they are very entertaining with their fluid animation and their smooth choreography. The fight scenes feel gritty and more realistic than 90% of the anime you would watch. They feel like something you would see in a martial arts movie, and I love that. And I want to emphasize, I am hungry. I'm starving for a down-to-earth, well-animated martial arts series, and fortunately or unfortunately, Windbreaker is the closest I've had to this for the last few years. And yes guys, I like both Baki and Kengan Ashura, but both of those anime, especially Baki, have left the realm of plausible reality a long time ago. So I may regret saying this because I haven't read the source material and I don't know where Windbreaker is going. God of High School, for example, really tricked me, but I really like this anime because up until now there aren't any chakra or chi or magical transformations or magical powers. It's just dudes swinging fists, and I love that. And the funniest thing to me is that Windbreaker doesn't even have a power system like shonen usually have, and it doesn't even particularly care about martial arts. Metrosexual Jet Li has a distinctive traditional martial arts fighting style, but besides that it's just dudes punching and kicking, and it's just so funny. I'm an absolute fanboy for grappling exchanges, and yet every time characters go to the ground on this show, they just throw a few punches and then they get back up and resume the punching and kicking. There are no arm bars or submissions of any kind, it's just striking. There's no real strategy or techniques in Windbreaker, it's usually just characters throwing haymakers as hard as they can until the other dude can't get back up. The only thing that matters on Windbreaker is vibes, whoever has that dog in him, and that is usually who wins. In terms of characters, we have adult Nobara looking like a snack. Why does anime do this? Why do we have lollies which are supposedly hundreds of years old, and then we have characters that look like this and are 16? It doesn't make any sense. She looks older, she acts older, she gives a lot of older sister vibes, she doesn't seemingly go to school, she works at a cafe, so... okay, whatever, I retract my snack comment, okay? Your Honor, she's at least 25, I swear. Also, daily reminder that Jotaro Kujo was supposedly 17 during Stardust Crusaders. Keeping up with the Jujutsu Kaisen vibes, we also have white hair boss dude that is essentially a friendlier version of Gojo. This one is more into gardening, okay. We have some tough dudes, some chill dudes, we have the usual puss boy that can fight, and obviously we have our main character, Sakura. Haruka Sakura. I'm sure this name means something in Japanese, but it's just so similar to Naruto's Haruno Sakura that I just can't help but laugh. Sakura is this sort of tsundere protagonist that presents himself as super edgy, but inside he's just a softie that wants to make some friends. He has this sobby backstory about how everybody rejected him, and now he is very self-conscious about that, and so he pretends to be this tough guy that's rough around the edges. And there's nothing wrong with this, but just as an observation, this is the first time I see such a tsundere character be a male character, much less the main one. He has these very emotional outbursts where he blushes a lot and is super embarrassed, and it's all very cutesy. It's like they combined the edgy shonen main character trope with a very feminine vibe, so that's something different, I guess. It's hilarious to me that an anime that boils down to dudes brawling has such a main character with these cutesy emotional outbursts. The contrast is so jarring that makes it so funny to me. And speaking of feelings, this anime definitely takes itself way too seriously for what it is. We have these cheesy English soundtracks, and the emotional clashes between characters are definitely way too corny for me. I get that these are just immature teenagers, but the storylines are just so cheesy, like shorty bad guy alienates everybody around him, and so he needs Gojo to show him that his fists have no weight because he has no friends and nobody to fight for. And after these very melodramatic exchanges, the boys just chill out, hang around, air out their feelings after banging it out, and it's just okay. Windbreaker is very campy, very cheesy, and there is definitely a space for these types of series on my watch list. I just don't take it anywhere near as seriously as I think the author wants me to. So overall, if you want to watch some dudes banging it out while they have cheesy dialogue about friendship and the things they are meant to protect, then Windbreaker is the anime for you. If a compelling setting, intricate storytelling, or complex characters are at all what you are looking for, then you might as well skip this one because Windbreaker has none of that. If you've seen Windbreaker, leave it in the comments below what you think about it, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Ciao!